if I don't try to help my employees, they may leave and go somewhere else. Talent is short because of Brexit and a whole range of other factors. I think we're going to see more and more strike action in almost every sector you can possibly imagine. It reminds me, I'm that old, it reminds me of the 1970s when I first came over from Britain from the US. And we had multiple strikes all during that period of time, and they were horrendous. I suspect, unless we get some sanity in the industrial relations scene, by sanity, by the way, I mean where there's some kind of compromise. I think we need wage increases given the rate of inflation, given the particularly also in the public sector. But we need management and the unions to come to an agreement and be rational. We haven't had rationality for a long time. So I'm praying that that's what will happen. But these events are not going to stop. The war in Ukraine is still going on. Fuel, poverty, inflation, and the like is going to lead to increasing number of strikes in just about every sector you can imagine. But we didn't have in the 70s, I think these external events are affecting us, and those external events are affecting the cost of living, our economy, our growth, which is going to be the lowest in the OECD countries. The bottom, not exactly the bottom, Russia's going to be below us in 2023. That's the only country it's going to be below us virtually. Big economy. I think it'll be worse than the 70s in a way. And also, except that, here's what I hope. What I hope is that employers will see the impact this is having on their own employees and will try to find a way of accommodating union demands, not up to the level of matching inflation. They won't be able to do that. I don't think they will actually be able to do that either. So we may remember the good news, I think, in a way, is in the 70s, we had a different kind of employer than we have now. I think employers now are much more employee orientated. They want, and basically they do that because they want to retain talent. Here's the big issue for them. If I don't try to help my employees, they may leave and go somewhere else. Talent is short because of Brexit and a whole range of other factors. We've lost lots of people. And that might be the way if they do it that way, employers, and say, well, we're going to help you out, but actually, that's as far as 5% is as far as we can go. We can't match your 9.5% inflation rate. We just can't do it. And that might be the difference between the 70s and now. The 70s was more about a battle between employers, between the unions, the workers, and management. This is about inflation, cost of living, crisis. And so I'm hoping we'll get more rationality in this era. It could, but remember, employers are employers. I mean, that's government saying what they want them to do. They're playing politics and saying we're going to be hard line with the unions, right? And I think that you're an employer, you're saying, how do I retain my talent? How do I get through this? I'm not going to get through this if they're smart. And remember, we have better trained managers, senior managers than we used to. They're younger. They're a different breed than we had in the 1970s. So my prayers are for these people actually looking rationally and saying, for my organization in my sector, I need to be competitive. I need to retain talent. I see that they're suffering because we have much more of an interesting kind of health and well-being at work than we ever have before. Depression is a leading cause of long-term sickness absence in the UK economy. They know that. How do I help? And people being in poverty, in working poverty, does not help them. And it does not help them if they decide to leave and go somewhere else where they can go work, for example, in Amazon. And they're a professional in the private sector, but the profession, what they do doesn't pay them very much. They might get more security and higher pay in in places like that. I think if they're rational, forget what the government says about the trade unions. That's rhetoric, and that's playing to a particular electorate. I'm hoping they'll go above that and say, for the good of my organization, we have to behave in this way and responsibly, but we can't go the full Monty, where there's no way we can meet the inflationary rate. We would go out of business. It would be too costly for us and probably too inflationary, and therefore would stimulate just a wage rise and inflationary rise, and it would just be unsustainable. For employers that are not responsive to the problems that employees currently have, it's not just in the private sector, I'm talking about the public sector as well.
Mm-hmm.
If employers are not responsive to the hardships that a lot of employees are going through at the moment financially, and don't understand that that affects their bottom line as well, forget all the arguments about, this will stimulate inflation and everything else. Yes, it would if they gave excessive demands, because it would just be circular. But if they look at it dispassionately, say, well, look if we raise it by that amount, we can just about afford it during these difficult times, but we will retain our people. They'll be more motivated and we'll get more out of them, and they'll see us as a good employer.